Hey loves, it's Angelica. Welcome and welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about 4 ways you can use rosemary oil, rosemary leaves for hair growth. Now, I have been using rosemary for months, maybe even years, but I found the most effective ways in the past maybe 6 months. So I'm going to share all those ways that you can use rosemary oil to increase your hair growth. Let's start with the benefits before we even get into how to use any of this in case you haven't seen any of my previous videos before. So rosemary is actually a herb that is natively grown in the Mediterranean areas, but it is available almost everywhere in the world. It is extremely easy to grow and it's usually pretty affordable. You can buy it from any of your local food stores. In the fresh section, wherever you find the herbs and the vegetables, you should be able to find rosemary there. And if you can't find fresh rosemary, of course you can also, if you're living in America or the UK, you can order fresh rosemary online from Amazon. And if you don't want any of the fresh ones or you can't find it, dry rosemary is usually available in the spice section of any of the stores that you are in. I am lucky enough to have a huge rosemary plant in my yard, and it's actually very easy to grow rosemary where I live. So now some of its actual benefits specific to hair growth are: it is anti-inflammatory, it promotes nerve regrowth on your scalp, which is amazing, and it improves circulation, which is all good for hair growth, because always remember that the hair that's on the outside of your head is basically dead. The focus is always on the scalp when it comes to promoting growth, and focusing on the ends and the actual shaft of your hair is more for promoting maintenance and also prevention of breakage to maximize length retention, not necessarily hair growth, because that all happens at the scalp. Studies have been done comparing how efficient rosemary oil is with minoxidil, which is something that is approved by dermatologists and trichologists. Usually, if you're suffering from hair loss, whether you are a man or a woman, they would prescribe minoxidil. The very popular one is Rogaine, which is just the brand. It is minoxidil, and you can put it topically. You can also ingest it. Most people like the topical applications. So this is medicinal, but it works just as efficient as rosemary. But this is only up to 5%, between 2 and 5%. Any higher percentages would be more effective than rosemary. But this is an extremely efficient and affordable way to get very similar benefits. And it's actually more beneficial when it comes to stopping anything to do with itching than Rogaine or minoxidil, any of those topical treatments that include minoxidil. So rosemary oil has also been known to really help with restoring hair loss and also helping with alopecia as long as it is non-scarring, because any kind of scarring hair loss cannot really be treated with any topical treatment, no matter how amazing it is, because it's scarred over. Just think about if you have like a scar in your eyebrow or something like that, that line is just going to stay there unless it completely heals and there's no scar. So now let's get into the first way you can use rosemary for extreme hair growth. Now the first one is extremely easy and I highly recommend it because it is very easy to try, it is very easy to make, and you don't even really need to bother buying it because it's literally 2 ingredients: rosemary and water. This is a rosemary hair rinse. Now I have made a video about this before, so I'm just going to show you a little demo from that clip to show you how to make the rosemary rinse. So as you can see, I just broke those rosemary stems and put them in some water. It is actually distilled water or mineral water, whichever one you want to use. That's what I would advise. You can use tap water, but it just won't be as effective because tap water usually has chemicals, and mineral water is just the best, okay? Just use it. So make sure you put just enough to submerge the rosemary. You do not want to do a full pot unless you're making this for a lot of people, because unfortunately, as much as I love this, it does go bad very quickly. You can only keep it in the fridge for about 3 to 5 days. So if you're making this for yourself, just make a little bit, and even if you've made too little, it's still going to be very potent and you can just dilute it with more water. So as you can see, I've brought it to a boil and it's making this like foamy kind of substance come to the top. And once that substance starts to look like a little bit purple, a little bit red or brown, then you know that most of the nutrients, most of the stuff that you want to get out of the rosemary is basically out. So once that happens, I usually leave it to boil for another minute. Then I turn it off and I just put the lid on and leave it to cool down with the lid on. And then once it's cool, I take it off and the water looks like this brown red color. Sometimes it looks more brown, sometimes it looks more red, but basically, if you want to know how to make it, that's literally it. It's done. So now I decant it into a glass jar. I will put the rest in the fridge because I think my mom might want to use some. And that's what was in the strainer. So if you've ever used rice water before, you notice that rosemary water is basically used the same way. You just spray it on your hair, spray it on your scalp right before you wash your hair. You can leave it in for maybe 30 minutes. If you want, you can even go under heat. Make sure it's on your scalp and all over your hair, but really, really focus it on your scalp. Leave it there for a couple minutes and then just proceed with your wash day. You don't have to do anything else. It's basically an added step. You are not replacing a conditioner or a shampoo or anything like that. It is just an added step. So you can just do that once a week, maybe twice a week. I wouldn't suggest any more than that. Use it for a couple weeks, maybe 2 to 3 months for you to see if there's going to be a difference. And what I personally like to do is I love rice water and I also love rosemary water. I know that they both work amazingly well on my hair. So what I like to do is actually just mix rosemary into my rice water, basically rosemary water and rice water in one, and it makes a nice powerful infusion, and I like to use this on my hair. But because rice water is a little bit more starchy and has a little bit of protein in it, I tend to only use this once to twice a month because that is what my hair needs. The second way is one of my favorites as well. This is because it is so easy to do this, absolutely easy, and it's technically an added step, but it's not like using like the rosemary water or anything like that, because this one you use it while you're shampooing your hair. So I would suggest you have a cloth or something. Most rosemary oil comes in some kind of glass. So if you're going to use this in the shower, you want to make sure that you don't make it slip and make it break. So if you want, you can decant it into something else that is plastic, or you can just make sure you have like a face towel or something close by so you can dry your hands and make sure that the bottle is dry before you apply it. I am pretty sure I have shown this in a video as well. So if I have, I will insert a clip of the demonstration. You want to make sure your hair is soaking wet and then proceed to use your favorite shampoo. Now, I would suggest a shampoo that has some qualities that help your hair, like bond building. So I'm using Olaplex. You can use Amika's The Cure. All these shampoos that actually have some sort of like treatment in them so that while they sit on your hair, they're actually doing something. But if you don't have, this will still absolutely work with whatever shampoo you're using. Just make sure it's a moisturizing one and always lather it in your hands first and then put it on your scalp. Now do this as many times as you need to make your hair completely clean, and you know your hair is very clean because there's going to be a lot of lather. So in this video, you'll see me lather my hair twice, but sometimes if my hair is very oily or dirty, I will have to do 3 rounds. So here, do exactly what you always do. Get through the first or maybe first and second rounds to get your hair clean. What we're adding is going to be to the last wash. When your hair is the cleanest and you're doing your last shampoo, that's when you want to do that. And you want to make sure you use only the pads of your fingers. Please do not use your nails, especially for this, because you don't want to add this ingredient to broken skin because it's very potent. So for your last wash, you're going to add some rosemary essential oil. Now, a little bit too much came up there. All you need is 2 drops. Now, by the way, as you're watching this, you do not have to wash your hair in 4 sections. This will work in whatever amount of sections you use. As you can see, I lathered that up so that it could mix the oil into the shampoo. And this is going to have direct access into your scalp, and you will see results very fast because the rosemary is going to be absorbing into your scalp and giving you all those amazing benefits while your hair is literally at its cleanest state and can be absorbed. Now, there is a secret after you lather it up and make sure that your hair is completely lathered so all the rosemary oil is spread everywhere else. After I lather up the last round of shampoo, there is a little hack. There is a big secret. And this is, you want to leave the shampoo sitting on your hair to allow the rosemary to absorb into your scalp, because if you just lather your hair and wash it off, yes, you will get some benefits, but it won't be as much as if you let it sit on your hair. So I like to let it sit on my hair for like 2 to 5 minutes, or as long as it takes for me to wash the other section. So if you wash your hair perhaps in 2 sections, you can wash 1 section first. Make sure that that hair is completely clean, completely lathered with the rosemary essential oil in it. Let it sit. Go ahead and wash the other side of your hair and do the same. Now, if you have finer hair or really long hair that you like to just wash everything in one sitting and lather at once, you can do the exact same thing. You just have to find something to do in the shower. So while your hair is like super lathered, you can just clip it up, Let the shampoo sit on your hair, let the rosemary absorb into your clean scalp, and then you could just find something to do. Shave your armpits, do a body scrub. Sometimes you don't want to add something that you really have to be like, oh my God, I have to add another step. I have to do so much. No, you're not going to change anything else around your hair care routine. Just do exactly what you've been doing, but add rosemary essential oil to your shampoo step and let it sit. So as you can see, I have continued going section by section. As I'm rinsing off one section, the other section is sitting with shampoo. So it's very easy for me. I don't have to time it. I don't have to wait. I just go section by section. And for that last front section, I actually went and proceeded to my deep conditioning section at the back on one section, and then I proceeded to rinse out the shampoo on the front. You can only use rosemary essential oil for this. If you use a rosemary oil that contains a carrier oil in it, like what I'm going to mention later, it's just going to make your hair oily and it's not going to do the job. Essential oils are extremely thin, meaning it's not going to disrupt the oil levels in your shampoo or on your scalp. It's just going to be the perfect amount. Highly recommend it. You wouldn't even realize. You just be like, oh, my hair is starting to look a little bit better than usual. You won't even remember what you're doing because it's just like so automatic. So the next way you can use rosemary for extreme hair growth is to use a beautiful oil mix, which can be used in two ways. So first, let me show you how to make this oil mix. It is very easy, very few ingredients. After that, I will show you how to use it. And the first thing you want to do is thoroughly wash it to get any sand or dirt off of it. We don't spray our rosemary with chemicals or anything like that. So if you do find one that has chemicals or you're not sure, maybe soak it for a little while, but just make sure it's washed and completely clean. And then what I like to do is wrap it in a tea towel, and this is to make sure it absorbs all the water and the moisture, because we don't want any water dripping into the oil. So as you see, I'm squeezing it, but not wringing it because I don't want to break the leaves. I'm just squeezing it to get out all the water. And you can see the leaves are basically completely dry, very nice and fresh and green. Now, even if it seems dry, I'm still going to put this back into the towel, wrap it up, and leave it there for a couple of minutes as I prepare everything else, just to make sure any little moisture that I can't see can be absorbed by the towel. We are going to be doing the double boiler method. So first I put the pot on the stove with a lid on just to make sure it boils quickly. And while that is boiling, we are starting to prepare the oil. So I'm using extra virgin olive oil. And when you're using extra virgin olive oil, you should always read the back to make sure that it shows that the only ingredient is extra virgin olive oil. Sometimes there could be a mix. So then I'm using a quarter cup. I always now only do quarter cup measurements in case you want to try this as well. Try with your oils in small doses. So a quarter cup of olive oil and 1 tablespoon of castor oil. You can use whatever carrier oil or oils that you love best, and this will still work. So you don't have to use olive oil, and you also don't have to use castor oil. You can use grapeseed oil. You can use whatever oil you like. So now we are just getting the leaves off, and I'm just dragging them down. That's the easiest way to get, I don't know whether you can call them leaves, I guess. It's sort of a leaf. So now the water is boiling by the time I was done with that. And once it's boiling, I reduce the temperature to almost off so that it's just like simmering. And then I put this metal bowl over the top because, like I said, we are doing the double boiler method. And the reason for this is so that none of the nutrients from the oils get denatured, but we can still extract all the nutrients from the rosemary. Now, the key thing you should do here is to make sure that the water does not touch the bowl. That is going to be almost the same as putting it straight onto the stove. So make sure that it's just the steam doing the work. You want to make sure the bowl does not touch the water. Even if you use something glass, make sure it doesn't touch the water, so it's just the heat. So you want to mix, and you're going to start to see that it's going to become a little bit cloudy, and it's not going to look so different, but the color will eventually change. So I can't give you a specific time on how long to keep it, but I would say anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. And once it starts to look not as green as it was before, and the oil is starting to look a little bit more cloudy, you know that it's done. I just turn off the burner and I move the oil off the stove. Now this is what the oil looks like when it is done. We are going to strain out the rosemary, and I'm going to put this in a glass jar. If you have like a brown glass jar that's tinted, that would be better, but glass is always better than plastic. So if you have glass over plastic, choose that first. And if plastic is your only option, you can go ahead and use a plastic bottle. Now that you've seen how we've made that rosemary oil, it is very easy. I absolutely love it. And just remember, I said it in the demo, but in case you didn't get it, I'm saying it again now. You can use fresh rosemary, which is my favorite, but it has a very short shelf life because the rosemary contains water, which means it will go bad fast. The second option, which will last much longer, is to use dry rosemary. Now, personally, as much as I love the rosemary infusion, whether I use dry rosemary or fresh rosemary, I still like to put in a couple drops of the essential oil just to give it a little extra punch. So you don't have to add the essential oil, but if you just want to be like me and just add a little extra kick to it, just add the pure essential oil into your oil mix. And if I haven't said this before earlier on, please do not ever use any essential oil, not just rosemary oil, on your scalp. Other oils are easier to stay away from, like tea tree oil and peppermint oil, because they can literally give you scalp burn and you can feel it burning. With things like rosemary, it does have like a tingling sensation, but it's not as strong as peppermint oil. So you might think it's not affecting you or it is not burning you, but it is extremely potent. Any essential oil is extremely potent, and you don't want to put them directly onto your scalp without diluting them with a carrier oil. So if you ever mention me saying, oh, put this rosemary oil on your scalp, I mean it is an oil that contains rosemary oil. You have diluted it with a carrier oil because you might think it's working now, but later down the line, even 3 to 6 months later, you might experience some damage. So now that we've got that out of the way, here's the first way to use this rosemary oil for hair growth. The first way is as a pre-poo. Now you can do this. The first way is to warm the oil just a little bit. You can just put water in the kettle or in the microwave just to heat it up. Take it out and then put the oil in the water to heat up. Don't put the oil directly in the microwave, and don't try and boil it on the stove, because if you overheat it, just like when making the oil, you could denature some of the nutrients that could die at different temperatures. You just want it to be warm enough to go on your scalp without burning you. So what you want to do is put a generous amount, a very generous amount. I can't tell you how much to put because you just know depending on how your scalp feels. You can put the rosemary oil all over your scalp, massage it in really well, give yourself a good scalp massage, and then put some focused on the mid shafts to the ends of your hair and saturate your hair in that oil. Put a plastic bag over your head or a plastic cap. Go under heat for 20 minutes. This is going to give you like a nice deep treatment, and it's going to penetrate the hair shaft. Then you want to go ahead and put on a bonnet or a scarf, whatever you want, and you can leave this on your hair overnight. I would just suggest maybe you put like a plastic cap or something underneath. Or if you have a dark silk pillowcase and it is almost time to wash your pillowcase, you can perhaps go ahead and just sleep with the bonnet. So if just a little bit of oil seeps through onto your pillowcase, it's fine because you're going to wash it off anyway. So you want to do that. Sleep with it overnight, okay? Keep it overnight. Maximum 40 minutes. If you can't keep it overnight, you can still do this exact same thing. Go under heat, leave it in your hair for about 40 minutes. Then proceed to your wash day just as you usually would. Shampoo, condition, do whatever you want. Now, the fourth way to use rosemary for hair growth is my personal favorite, and this is using the same oil mix I showed you how to make, just to use it to apply to my scalp about every other day, or a minimum of once a week and a maximum of 4 to 5 times a week. Usually it's about 4 times a week, so I'll do like every other day. Whether I do it on any other time during the week, the first time I will always do it is the day I wash my hair or the day after. If my hair feels like too wet, if it's not completely or at least 90% dry, I will wait to put the oil until my hair is like 90% dry, so that might be the next morning. I'll go ahead and oil all over my scalp. I do not put too much oil. I hate the feeling of like touching my hair or touching my scalp and then looking at my hand and there's like oil all over it. You really don't need that much for it to be effective. You just need enough for it to coat your scalp and to not make your scalp dry. Go ahead and do a scalp massage. You always want to follow up with a scalp massage after you put any oil on your scalp for it to be the most effective. So what I would do is just oil my scalp like that, do a scalp massage, whether it's like 5 to 10 minutes, and just continue to do this every other day or at least 3 times a week. Minimum, if I'm very lazy, like I said, I will at least do it on my wash day once a week. But I have been doing really well with at least doing 3 times a week, and it has been extremely effective, among other things. It has really, really helped my hair grow so much longer and faster, and it is the single oil that has made the most difference in my hair growth journey. In my hair growth journey from the beginning until now, it is a truly amazing oil. Now, you do not have to wash your hair after you put it in the middle of the week. Unless you actually wash your hair like 3 times a week, you can even be a little bit more generous with the oil when you put it because you do wash your hair 3 times a week. I personally only wash my hair once a week unless for some reason my hair feels extremely dry and brittle and I have to wash it, then I'll break my routine and go ahead and wash it. So I would go ahead and oil my hair every other day, and it will never get too oily to the point where the oil is dripping down my hair shaft or anything like that. I just put a minimal amount. Also, keep in mind that I have very thick, coarse hair, so it takes a lot for anything to weigh my hair down. If you have finer hair, you could possibly need less oil as well. It's just as long as there's oil on your scalp to do your nice scalp massage with. Okay, now that I've shared all the ways, I want to just answer the question I get the most at the end, and the question I expect to get from you guys the most, which is, out of all these methods I have mentioned, which one is the most effective? The answer might be slightly annoying because the answer is I can't tell you what the most effective one for you will be. But what I can tell you is that the most effective way to use rosemary oil is whichever way you can be the most consistent with. And that is why the last one, the oiling the scalp one, is the most beneficial for me because it is the one I can be the most consistent with. It takes very little energy. I can always see it somewhere on a table. I can just pick it up, oil my scalp really quickly, do a little scalp massage, whether it's when I wake up in the morning, whether it is before bed. I always find time to do it. So, because I am the most consistent with it, I have seen the most results with it. If I use the rosemary oil when I shampoo my hair every single time, or if I did the rosemary rinse every single week, I would probably see the most benefits from them. But because I don't use those as often as I oil my hair, I haven't seen the benefits as much with them. So, whichever one you choose, whichever one you think would fit into your routine the easiest, whether it's the shampoo hack, whether it's the rosemary water, whether it is the hot oil treatment, whichever one you can do the most consistently, that's the one that's going to give you the best results and the most effective results. And a final disclaimer, if you are pregnant, if you are a child or you want to use this on a child, if you have any medical condition or you're taking any kind of medication, you will want to consult your healthcare provider before you use this oil because it is very potent. And while it usually doesn't have any side effects, if it counteracts with something else that you are taking or some kind of issue that you personally have, it may have side effects because just because it's natural and it has no chemicals, everything's a chemical, it doesn't mean that you can't have any side effects. So please, if you fall under any of those categories, please consult your healthcare provider. If you want to see more rosemary videos from me, you can check them out here and here. Hit my face right there to subscribe if you didn't in the beginning. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!